Not me currently rushing to get a recap video out a day before 2.2 comes out. The Devil in Velvet. To be honest, when I was done playing the whole 2.1 Trailblaze mission, I still don't know who the devil is. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved the story and it was amazingly written, but it was also like an anime version of Among Us in the setting of Inception. There's so many Uno reverses that at some point I thought I was the bad guy. Now, with all of the Uno reverses and sus characters, you might be confused on what actually happened in the 2.1 Trailblaze mission, and that's why I'm here. We're going to be recapping the Trailblaze mission and clarifying some details that might not be completely obvious immediately. So with all that being said, let's get into the Devil in Velvet. We start exactly where we left off, standing over Space Taylor Swift's supposedly dead body with Peacock Boy Aventurine. He claims he has nothing to do with the crime, and apparently that this isn't even the scene of the crime and it's just a light cone memory. Which, by the way, literally means he went through the trouble of getting a custom-made illusion done just so he can give us the shock factor that Robin's dead. Theater kids, am I right? He mentions that the death cannot exist in the dreamscape because the family has countermeasures to ensure that no one can actually die. They'll just wake up with what I would imagine to be a bit more than a falling feeling. And for this reason, he accuses Acheron of being the true killer because she's an emanator, the only person that can disrupt the family's countermeasures. Zesterine says he wants to work with us and then just straight bribes us, telling us to go meet with the other members of the Nameless to discuss. Black Swan leads us out and gives us a parting gift that will probably be used at some point later on. After we make it out, we then see what happens with Sam and Acheron. Unfortunately, it's not the robot versus samurai fight we were wanting. Sam goads Acheron to draw her blade, but Acheron responds by simply asking Sam if he dreams about those he's slain. We then get a flashback of when Acheron decided to pay a little visit to the Everflame mansion and teach them what destruction really looks like. Acheron then tells Ifrit that his kids are still alive and that he can still live too if he gives her the music box invitation to Penacony. Quite the threat. Ifrit responds that he'd rather go out with a bang, and, well, he kinda does, dueling to the death with Acheron. We go back to the present where Acheron mentions that she still dreams of those she's slain and that she knows who's truly behind the armor, claiming it's not yet time for them to die. Sam says it's not yet time to reveal who they really are, as if it wasn't obvious. Acheron says that Sam hasn't really been fighting, just trying to keep the Trailblaze away from her, asking if it's all part of Elio's script. And Sam just kind of responds, yeah. Acheron offers to help Sam because she knows who's behind the armor, but they refuse, and offers their own advice, saying that if Acheron wants to find the Watchmaker's legacy, to look into the family, and says that the Astral Express is of no enemy of hers. Sam then mentions the only thing Elio's script says is to get all of the Astral Express to track down the legacy, which kind of implies Dan Heng being involved sometime in the next patch. Sam then answers Acheron's original question by stating that they don't have the ability to dream. They only live in a harsh reality until they burn into ash. Really hitting that emo stage, aren't we, Sam? We cut back to discussing with the crew about teaming up with Aventurine and his bribe, and or the family, who asked us to help investigate Firefly's death, but not mentioning Robin's. Apparently everyone just seems to believe we're just good people. We agree to help Aventurine, and he decides to send us more money, thinking that he could buy us over. And he's right, I needed the money. The crew then splits up into two groups, with Himiko, March, and the Trailblazer going back to the real world to try and find Firefly's body, and Welt, who decided to stay back and investigate something himself. Welt then pulls a "come out, I know you've been watching us," and then Acheron pops out of thin air and pulls a "I know you know I've been watching you." They start off by introducing themselves, and Acheron questions whether the sword she wields is more dangerous than the black hole in Welt's cane. And then Big Daddy Welt, noticing that she has a bit too much information on the Trailblaze, threatens to take out his cane to see who has the bigger black hole.
Reveal your true identity and intentions. Otherwise, brace yourself for gravitational disintegration.
Welt, the true overprotective father of the Astral Express. Acheron then says that she'll abide, and then doesn't, but then mentions that she's here for her friend's final request, going after the Watchmaker's legacy. She then reveals that she knows about the Trailblaze's Stellaron body and speculates that the legacy has something to do with the Trailblaze, and the source of all tragedies lies within the family. And then asks our help to find proof, which makes the third person to request our help. Oh, how nice it is to be popular. We cut back to Black Swan in Acheron's room doing something that's probably against some privacy law somewhere. She searches through whatever memories she could get from Acheron and hears the memories of the Everflame Mansion conversations, trying to figure out what happened between Acheron and Ifrit. She then finds out that there are none, as if all the memories have been erased. She then hears another voice, but not a memory, but of someone speaking to Black Swan. It's revealed that this is Constance, who was supposed to have a, quote, unforgettable time with Black Swan. Something I wish I could have seen. For research purposes. Constance then says she'll gift Black Swan Acheron's memories, and then a phone rings. POV switches to Aventrine's dream, where we learn more about his birth and the backstory of his people. He's from a land called Sigonia, and his people are the Avgens. Sigonia is a desert planet, think Arrakis from Dune. Developed their own religion independent of the Eons, which by the way is completely fascinating on its own right, and I want to make a video covering the concept of religion in Star Rail. His people pray to a goddess called Gaiatha Triclops, which is a hell of a name. It's revealed that his father passed away and his mother is currently dying, giving birth to Aventrine. In her dying breaths, she prays to Gaiatha Triclops to then bless her child. And surprisingly, she does. She makes it rain, and supposedly that is a sign of a blessing of good fortune, which may or may not actually be truly good fortune, but we'll get to that later. In her last moments, she gives Aventrine his real name, Kakavasha, meaning child blessed by Gaiathra. Ratio wakes up Aventrine, who then informs him that the family is covering up Robin's death and is even streaming her rehearsals with a stand-in. And I think you could probably guess who that is. Ratio also informs Aventrine that on top of Robin, a stowaway was also killed by the meme. Aventrine mentions Robin's voice is connected with a harmony and that she was having trouble singing here in Penacony, meaning there must be something wrong with the harmony here. And when he was about to ask her, she died of memes. Ratio then mentions that Sunday wants to meet with Aventrine regarding this whole mess. The pair then goes to visit Sunday, who has the same home decorator as every RPG dungeon boss, with a layer full of puzzles. Aventrine calls Ratio big.
Doctor, you're huge.
Take that however you wish. They then arrive at Sunday's office. Ratio asks if Aventrine has a plan, and Aventrine kinda just says no, which is basically the equivalent of winging a conversation with a world leader. But he does say that he thinks that there's a traitor in the family, and that he doesn't actually think Acheron is involved. He then says 3 chips are enough, and then walks into a opposing world leader's office. Aventrine comes up to Sunday claiming that there's a traitor in the family who caused his sister's death and offers to help. Sunday asks what he wants in return. Aventrine says that all he wants is what the family took from him when he first came to Penacony, a bag of gift money and his Aventrine cornerstone. This is when it's revealed that each cornerstone holds the power of an emanator of preservation and is given to each of the 10 stone hearts of the IPC. Which, by the way, kind of implies that Aventrine and Topaz are emanators? Now that's true top ass. Sunday obviously says no to giving Aventrine back the power of a demigod, so Aventrine just asks for his gift money. Sunday, concerned why he was so willing to part with his cornerstone, pulls out some crazy harmony truth spell on Aventrine and then goes to interrogate the man. Aventrine answers everything truthfully except for the last one, when he's asked if the Aventrine stone is in the cornerstone box, in which he replies, yes. Sunday then asks Aventrine to open the box, and when Aventrine does, it's actually empty. Sunday then shows off that he actually has 2 cornerstones. Now, if that's not an Uno reverse, I don't know what is. We then flash back to when Ratio goes to visit Sunday, and Sunday convinces Ratio to betray Aventrine by offering him information on the Stellaron, in which Ratio accepts. Sunday, concerned with what Aventrine might be planning, asks Ratio to open the cornerstone box. When he does, it's revealed that the stone inside is actually Topaz's. Which, by the way, is actually insane if you think about it, because Aventrine somehow convinced Topaz to let him gamble the literal stone that has her will to live on it. Ratio then shows that the aventurine stone is actually tucked away in plain sight in the money bag. I'm gonna call this a pre-Uno reverse from aventurine, and then Ratio and Uno reversing again when he betrayed him. Back to the present, Sunday thanks Ratio in front of aventurine for his services and then tells aventurine he has 17 system hours to live because he lied. That's one hell of a truth serum. Sunday, who really isn't living up to the chill vibes of his name, says that if Aventurine's able to solve the murders and give more information about the traitor, then Shippei, the Eon of Harmony, will spare him. As Aventurine leaves after being double Uno reversed, Sunday asks him, do you truly wish to bring about the destruction of the world? We then flash back to Aventurine's past. He's now a boy in Sigonia, and he's being lectured by his sister because he bet his life to get back the necklace that the Catagans, who are essentially the racist assholes against Aventurine's people, stole from his sister, which was the only thing left that his sister had that was a gift from their dead mother. Just to make sure you knew that the Catagans were the bad guys. Remember guys, racism is bad. This is actually the first instance of how lucky Aventurine is. His sister didn't even seem to be surprised that he won the bet against his life, since he was blessed by their goddess, Gaia the Triclops, which implies that he has always been lucky, and their goddess's blessing is real, even though she's not an Eon. Again, that's going to be a topic for another day, so I might as well just plug here and say, like and subscribe if you want to see that video. We then change to the Trailblazer's perspective, asking the front staff about Firefly, who doesn't come up within the system at all. And then Top Ass herself shows up, probably concerned that Aventurine is gambling her cornerstone away. Can't really do anything about it though, because the IPC is not welcome into the dreamscape, which I guess is one way to avoid the IRS. She then mentions that the Bloodhounds are watching over her and that maybe we should talk with them. They tell us that the security officer is at Dream's Edge, who we suppose is Gallagher, but they don't say his name. Keep that in mind for later. We go to Dream's Edge and is stopped by another Bloodhound who strangely doesn't recognize Gallagher's name, but confirms that the security officer in charge is here, but won't let us through. After giving him some serious emotional damage, we talk to Gallagher. Tell him that we are investigating the murder on behalf of the family, and he says that we should talk in a place that's a little bit more hush-hush. We cut to Welt and Acheron having a bit of a philosophical conversation regarding the dreamscape and how it truly is the people who live here. Honestly, Acheron kind of portrays it in a really rough way. To be honest, this conversation seems to be a bit more of a reference to Honkai Impact 3rd and the world where Welt is from. I don't play it, so there was a lot of it that went past me. The main point of the conversation is that it confirms that Acheron isn't the girl which Welt knew from before. I think that's supposed to be Raiden Mei from Honkai Impact 3rd. It also implies to the audience that there is going to be future characters in Star Rail that may look or act similar to characters from their other games. You know, the whole multiverse thing or Hoyoverse thing that everyone's kind of doing nowadays. We then cut back to Black Swan picking up the phone to everybody's favorite space cowboy. Okay, I mean, everyone's favorite space cowboy in Star Rail, Boot Hill, it's Boot Hill. In a glorious southern accent, threatens to kill Acheron for impersonating a Galaxy Ranger, and then threatens to kill Black Swan because he thinks she's with Acheron, and in some ways he's not wrong. After Black Swan says she just wants information on Acheron, Boot Hill, apparently believing in the saying, the enemy of my enemy is my ally, says they should go get drinks, and honestly would love to see that conversation. He then finishes off the conversation with a very important line, and I'll just let it play out because his VA, Andrew Russell, absolutely killed it.
That woman, named Acheron, is an emanator who should not exist.
Then come back to Aventurine and Ratio, where it's kind of revealed that Ratio betraying Aventurine was part of Aventurine's plan, which is basically an Uno reverse of an Uno reverse of an Uno reverse. The only thing they really didn't expect is Sunday hitting him with the life timer. Ratio gives Aventurine a little device and basically says to go open it when he's about to knock on death's door. Ratio pulls a now you see me, now you don't, and straight up disappears. How he did that is a question I actually have no answer to. Aventurine lures Sparkle out after being cancelled by giving away gems for information. I honestly didn't really get how this worked, but you know, whatever. Sparkle, doing what she does best, makes fun of Peacock Boy for getting literally strapped by Sunday. That was a choice of words. Sparkle asks if Aventurine took her advice and befriended a mute. Aventurine then asks if Robin was the mute, in which she responds no, which relieves Aventurine. She says that there was two mutes. One is dead, and the other, while still being on Penacony, Aventurine will never find again. I'll get to who the mutes might be later in this video. Sparkle then offers Aventurine a mutually assured destruction button, basically a nuke, that will destroy all of Penacony. Don't really know how she got that, and apparently Hoyle decided to just not explain how the crazy little girl ended up with a nuke. Aventurine declines, but says after his plans go through, feel free to blow up everything as she wishes. We then flash back to when Aventurine was bought as a slave after his people were massacred. I'll just say this now, my dude has had it rough. The guy who bought him wanted to test Aventurine's luck and had him compete in a Hunger Game death match between everyone he bought, just to make sure you knew he wasn't a good person. Aventurine then asks how much was his price, and the mayor responds 60 tanbas, or copper coins, which is implied to be very little. Remember guys, slavery is bad. We then cut to Gallagher being the Riz Lord that he is, takes 2 to 3 beautiful ladies, depending on the MC you chose, to a bar and then makes a drink for us. Oh, the sly man he is. On a side note, he introduces us to my #1 choice for which Star Rail NPC character to become playable. And this is the only argument I need. Gallagher, now actually talking to us about the case, says that Firefly actually disappeared from the dreamscape and reality, but in a way as if she never existed in the first place. He then states that death actually exists in Penacony and only happens a couple times, which by the way is very different information than what everyone else has given us. He then goes to confirm that the music box that everyone received is a message from the Watchmaker, and that the Watchmaker and the family are actually enemies. The family hasn't been able to catch him, so they wanted to use the music box invitations that he sent out as a way to lure him out. Gallagher then confirms a very important piece of information. Mikhail is the Watchmaker. Gallagher then takes us to Clockwork Studios, where he explains that all the characters in the cartoons in Penacony are based on real people who devised the riot that took over Penacony when it was still a IPC prison. March then asks the dangerous question of how old Gallagher is, and he replies,
I'm 13.
Damn. See, that wasn't Uno reversed, not because Gallagher actually Uno reversed anyone, but it was Hoyo Uno reversing the fan base for being so thirsty. Kale was too old to protect his children, and so they left the family and were branded traitors. The family praises the Watchmaker in public, but in reality, curses him behind closed doors. The family then accepts back Gallagher and the rest of the children and gave him his job as a security officer. Gallagher then reveals that the Watchmaker is actually a title passed down. Apparently, Mikhail passed away in a place no one would be able to find, and he doesn't know who has the title now. Gallagher leaves, and Himiko suspects that the Oak family might have something to do with this, which, by the way, is Sunday's family. We then cut to Acheron and Welt going into Sunday's mansion to figure out what the family is hiding. They find a note from Robin, who noticed something was wrong with her voice, which means there must be someone tampering with the harmony, and she says she'll investigate who, which kind of explains her current situation. Acheron reasons that it must be someone high up in the family, or someone with incredible power in order to affect a whole path. Another letter is a list of all the victims of death in Penacony. The third letter is from a man named Oti, addressed to Sunday, who basically says that he and the Dream Master are unhappy with him, and says he should stop trying to figure out who murdered his sister? Kind of a tall ask if you ask me. And the final letter is a list of suspects. This list in particular will be kind of important later. Sunday then arrives, seemingly unbothered by the people who literally broke into his house. I guess it doesn't really matter much if it's a dream house. He then mentions to Welt and Acheron that they should be cautious of Aventurine. We then get another flashback with Aventurine when he was arrested for a fraud case that massively shook the IPC while he was still a slave. He is then brought to Jade, who is
Shut up and take my money!
It's also revealed that Aventurine killed his owner, who was implied to be the previous Aventurine, which, to be honest, I don't really think deserved that title for a multitude of reasons, including a malnourished slave Kakavasha could kill him. Jade, noticing the potential in Aventurine, recruits him for the IPC and gives him his title. We cut back to present-day Aventurine, where through the power of the Harmony's brand, forces him to interact with his past and future self. Now, understandably, this part is kind of confusing. It is, in my opinion, very beautifully written and extremely emotional and philosophical to a certain extent, but it can be confusing if you didn't really understand what's going on. There's two parts of this. One is Aventurine's full plans explained, and the second is his emotional journey as his plans seemingly lead him to his own death. So let's start with just explaining his plan. Aventurine, knowing that Sunday is a very cautious man, has Rachel purposely expose and betray him, since Sunday would be looking for any plans from the IPC. Aventurine uses Topaz's stone as a red herring so that Sunday could on his own find the second cornerstone in the money bag. The thing is, Aventurine's stones is often found as a counterfeit for another stone, Jade. Sunday thinks that he has Aventurine's cornerstone as well as Topaz's, thinks he's won. But in reality, he only has Topaz's and Jade's. So where's Aventurine's? Aventurine actually smashed his own cornerstone and hid it in his money bag along with all the other jewels. And thus, Sunday gave Aventurine his own cornerstone back. Using 3 cornerstones, 3 chips, Aventurine managed to trick the family, which is the biggest brain move I have ever heard. My dude was playing 5D chess when everyone else was playing checkers. Now, Aventurine's cornerstone being smashed still has power, but not nearly as much as it would have been if it was whole. But it's just enough power for what Aventurine needed it for. Though it does make you wonder how that boss fight would have looked like if Aventurine had used his unbroken Aventurine stone. Considering that I only have 2 stars on his MOC boss fight, I'm glad he didn't. Now, that was his full plan for the cornerstones, but what about everything else that happened? So I'm going to summarize only the key details. I would recommend you to watch it over again after understanding the key details to really get the full emotional impact of how this writing is done, because truly it is phenomenal. He confronts his traumatic past and questions whether the blessing he received from Gaiatha Triclops really is a blessing. What does it mean to have good luck when everyone else and your environment has bad luck? In a way, it's an extreme level of survivor's guilt. All his family, his village, all of his people were killed. He had to kill all the other slaves, and he's the only one alive now. Whenever he makes a bet, his life is the first thing that he's willing to risk, as if he's tempting fate, tempting the gods to finally make him lose. Being smooth and unworried, but secretly gripping the chips he has for dear life. The gambles he takes isn't about the chances of winning or losing, it's about when he will finally lose, and in that same way, when he will finally be free. After accepting who he is and the pains that he's faced, he then goes towards the stage. To finish his plan, he must die. A final scene plays out from his past before he enters the stage. His sister tells him to run away, as she and his people, along with the IPC they aligned themselves with, retaliate against the catechins that attacked them. This led to a massacre of his people, leaving him the only Avgen left. After the flashback, Aventurine enters the stage. We then cut to the crew meeting back up along with Acheron. Well, vouches to work with Acheron and mentions that Aventurine has to explain for accusing her. Aventurine, somehow getting control of the Dreamscape's PA system, invites the crew and Acheron to come face him. We arrive and he acts as if he wants to blow up the Stellaron in us to prove that death can actually happen in the Dreamscape. Now, obviously this is a lie to get us to start fighting him. He activates his broken up cornerstone and starts the most Gamba boss fight ever, with honestly my favorite boss fight track in this whole entire game. Like, listen to this. Aventurine seemingly going all in on the one final attack. We then cut to a flashback with Acheron, talking to some old man saying that she will visit Penacony. The old man responds saying that they will not accept her there because of her path, and she finally reveals that she is the emanator of Nihility. This explains why she came to Penacony pretending to be a Galaxy Ranger though, because the family wouldn't let her in knowing that she followed Nihility. We cut back to Aventurine goading Acheron to draw her blade and, well, she does.
I wish to mourn the departed, weeping like rain, to swell the crossing stream. As the tide arrives, leading you back home.
My girl opened up a domain expansion so powerful it would make Gojo proud. Aventurine wakes up in what I can only assume is Acheron's Shadow Realm. Acheron reveals that IX, the Eon of Nihility, doesn't glance at anyone and should not be able to have an emanator, as the Nihility envelops all equally. Acheron reveals that she knows Aventurine's full plan and that he was purposely putting them against each other on opposing sides to ensure that Acheron would cut him down and give him a dream death, because that is the only way to get to the Watchmaker's legacy. Penacony, the Watchmaker's legacy, the true land of exile. Basically, the backrooms of Penacony on the other side of the dreamscape. The dreamweavers that the family uses to ensure that no one dies in a dream are also the ones to ensure that no one is able to go to the other side of the dreamscape where all of the family's secrets lie. And so, Aventurine needed to cause his own death without the interference of the family. It's revealed that someone has already went to the other side of the barrier and has learned of the truth, but is too afraid to speak about it. We'll get to who that might be later. Acheron reminds Aventurine of Ratio's device, which says that it's not death that is impossible in the dreamscape, but rather dormancy. After Aventurine gives one last touching prayer that makes all the Sims cry, fully embraces his past, and walks off into the black hole. We cut to Jade and Topaz having a conversation about noticing that the light of the Aventurine Stone has faded. Which, by the way, I don't know how they got a hold of the thing, considering that they can't actually go into the dreamscape. Jade then starts activating her own cornerstone that is deep within the family territory and starts harvesting. We cut to our perspective where it's revealed that Sam is the one who saves us from Acheron's domain expansion and explains that they've tried 11 times to get to the other side of Penacony, which is why they have originally asked Acheron to draw her blade so that they could go on that side as well. Sam then reveals that they are actually Firefly. Mecha waifus for the win. We get one last scene where Gallagher visits Sunday, and Sunday reveals that even though Aventurine tricked him, he is unconcerned because his real target has been Gallagher all along. Sunday then points out something very interesting about Gallagher, that he isn't a real person, but rather a blend of a bunch of traits from the 52 family members. This actually explains why no one in the Bloodhound family seems to remember or know about Gallagher, and that all the information he gave us is different from everyone else. Gallagher says he's underestimated Sunday, and Sunday then reveals that Gallagher is actually a minion of Enigmata, and then asks him why he killed his dear sister. And Gallagher responds with this.
You know, in the thick of things, people are blind to the grit in their eyes. Yet they can always feel it scratch. Want the answer? I'll give it to you. The whole thing is just fate playing a cruel joke on us.
Basically sending his pet meme to kill Sunday. Whew, that was a beefy recap. So let's quickly go over some unclear questions you may have and give my best answers for them. Is Aventurine and Robin dead? No, they are actually alive, but currently in the back rooms of Penacony, all looking for the secrets that lie within the family. Who is the person that went to the other side of the barrier and has learned the truth but is too afraid to speak about it? It's kind of implied that this is either Robin or Firefly, though since Firefly technically can't go to the other side because she can't dream, and Acheron didn't cut her down. This only leaves Robin. So that basically means that Robin is in Penacony, alive, but is too afraid to speak about what she saw there, and that actually may be why her voice is being affected so much. What is Enigmata? The path that Gallagher follows is the path of Enigmata, with the Eon of Mythos. Enigmata is best explained as the path of questions and mysteries. If erudition is the path to answer life's questions and give solutions, Enigmata is the opposite. It's the path that gives endless questions and unsolvable mysteries. Mythos, the Eon, supposedly takes no shape, and thus, a true enigma. The factions associated with Enigmata are the history fictionologists and the riddlers. And for the final question, who is the devil in velvet? Well, You gotta admit, Hoyle was pretty slick for that one. Well, I hope this helped you guys get caught up for 2.2. Let me know down below if you have any other questions and if you're excited for the 2.2 patch. With that being said, I'm jorjor. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.